You guys for tuning in to another segment of the Sit Down with Malik Wright presented by First Star Logistics. On this segment, I want to discuss the NFL coaches that are on the hot seat because there are a ton, right? At the top of the list, one has to assume it's Bill Belichick. One has to assume Arthur Smith, Robert Saleh, maybe. Who knows? I certainly have my thoughts on some coaches that are on the NFL. But Daniel, I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are. Who do you think are some coaches that are going to be on the hot seat?
So number one, let's talk about it. Arthur Smith, hands down. You got an extremely talented team. Your division is one of the weakest in the NFL. This was your year, right? You go out free agency, get a ton of talent, get Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, misusing the talent. However you want to slice it, you go out and you lose to the Arizona Cardinals this past week. So Arthur Smith is definitely one. The other, Matt LaFleur. I feel like Matt LaFleur, I'm looking at a lot of different lists. Matt LaFleur's not up there. No one's talking about Matt LaFleur, and I think it's because of the Aaron Rodgers effect is still around him. Let's not forget, though, with Aaron Rodgers on his team, he was still not an elite head coach. And now you go out to see some of the headlines. He threw Aaron Jones under the bus this week, right? So you're throwing your own players under the bus, and respectfully, you got a talent like Jordan Love. You're not playing to his strengths. You are forcing this guy to play outside of his comfort zone. Give him something, a run game, right? You got AJ Dillon, Aaron Jones. You got a good offensive line. You got decent weapons around you. Build around him. And I feel like personally, he's not doing a good enough job of utilizing the talent that they have there. So I saw him even with Aaron Rodgers last season not be as good. And there were times during Aaron Rodgers' tenure we saw Matt LaFleur struggle. So I think we're really starting to see the head coach that Matt LaFleur really is. And he's definitely one of the guys that needs to be on the hot seat. If I'm looking at some of the other guys real quick, I think Todd Bowles of the Buccaneers needs to be on the hot seat. Even with Tom Brady, same thing. Tom Brady was there. He was still struggling as a head coach. This year, you've got talent on your team, and they're way too inconsistent for my liking, right? You start off the season hot, then you come out, have a couple duds. Todd Bowles is one of the guys where I can see the Buccaneers cleaning house this offseason, going with a new quarterback, going with a new head coach. He's another guy. A couple other guys who might as well touch on. Frank Reich for the Carolina Panthers, him and the GM have been completely at odds. It was reported that, he was hinting, hey, I didn't really even want Bryce Young. They're 1-8 right now. Their team's not playing well. Frank Reich definitely needs to be on the hot seat. You got any guys?
Well, I'll say I want to talk about some of the ones you just had mentioned.
Yeah.
First and foremost, let's talk about LaFleur, Matt LaFleur. Talk about Aaron Jones. I actually don't think he threw Aaron Jones on the bus.
Really?
Personally. I think that's a coach holding a player accountable. But
Fair.
I understand that when you're not winning, it's very difficult to do that. So it could come across as you throwing the player under the bus. The fact of the matter is he was holding him accountable, saying, hey, could have been a smarter decision there.
Fair.
Obviously, a player of Aaron Jones's caliber, who's been in the league for as long as he has, who's experienced a lot of success, albeit personal success rather than team success, you expect the IQ to be just a little bit better there. So I think the reason why it might be people might look at it as him throwing him under the bus is because they aren't winning right now, and they look pretty bad. And if you are winning, I think that comment kind of falls on deaf ears. I don't think people really look too much into it. Then you had brought up Frank Reich. Frank Reich to me is a guy that has never been in a situation as a head coach where he drafted a quarterback and he had to nurture a quarterback and mature that quarterback and grow with that quarterback. So I think this is a guy that for the most of his tenure with the Indianapolis Colts, he relied on a lot of veteran quarterbacks. And I think that because you have a number one overall pick in Bryce Young and you're kind of forced to play him, you're seeing just the type of coach that Frank Reich is. I think Frank Reich is a little bit of an overrated play caller, if you ask me. I think Frank Reich is a guy that you know what he is. You know that for whatever reason, I know he gave up offensive play calling duties and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, if you look at any coach in the league, he just doesn't instill that type of confidence in me where I'm like, yep, he's going to take that team to the promised land. It's very much like a bridge coach. That's how I've always viewed him. But I do agree with you. I think that he was the wrong guy to hire for the Carolina Panthers. And I thought that they kind of rushed the hiring process, if you ask me a little bit, when they did do that. But a couple of names that I want to talk about, maybe Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh, how long do the Johnsons put up with losing, right? You can blame Zach Wilson, but this is the same coach that stood on the hill and said, we're going to stand by Zach Wilson, even though you had a roster that was destined to compete this year. Now, all your hopes, your dreams rest on the fate of Aaron Rodgers' calf and his ability to come back in mid-December, as some reports have suggested. It's necessary that Robert Saleh is held accountable, if you ask me,
Yeah.
because he could have been out. He could have went out there, and maybe the Jets could have went out there and been the team to acquire a Josh Dobbs. Maybe they could have been the team to try to acquire a player that was going to put them in contention. You're worried about hurting the confidence of Zach Wilson. Well, his confidence has already been hurt. He's been benched before. He's been brought. You brought in a superstar quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, even though you spent a first round pick on this guy. Whatever damage is done to his confidence is done to his confidence already. And on top of that, you had the scandal with him sleeping with his mom's best friend, playing in New York, and the New York media is going to be relentless towards him. So there's countless things you can look at when it comes to Zach Wilson's confidence that I just think at this point, a breath of fresh air. My good friend Josina Anderson put on social media. She says, hey, maybe a new scenery will be great for a quarterback like Zach Wilson. I couldn't agree more. I think at this point, I think what Zach Wilson is. I think he is what he is, and I think to expect any different from now is wishful thinking. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I want to touch on, you talked about the head coaches versus GMs. It's how you look at the quarterbacks, and you've got to see like, okay, hey, if there's a new quarterback, it's a lot has to do with the GM. So I'm with you.
Yep. Very curious to what you guys' thoughts are. Let us know down in the comment section what coaches should be on the hot seat in your eyes. I'm very curious to hear what you guys think. If you like more video content like this, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live from the First Star Logistics Studio.